Good afternoon and welcome to the Penguin Parlor. My name is Jennifer Reynolds. I go live here in the Penguin Parlor every Thursday at 3 p.m. However, if you ever want to make an appointment or meet outside of that time in the Penguin Parlor, of course, I'm always available to make an appointment. This afternoon, 15 minutes, we're going to talk about fly sale options. Things that I will record the session. It will be posted as well in my room. Last week, and things we've looked at in the past, Antarctica 101, a terrific introduction to the peninsula itself, a great 101 overview that is recorded and available for viewing. A few weeks ago, a typical day in Antarctica, if one can ever call any kind of day typical in Antarctica. I guess it's typical day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, because there's always something very new and unusual, but a typical day as best as we could describe it in 15 minutes available for your viewing. But my name is Jennifer Reynolds. I was born and raised in Canada. I spent 18 years of my life living and working on board cruise ships. Tampa, Florida is home for me now, where I live with my little kitty cat, Alfie. I've been to all 7 continents. I'm absolutely crazy bananas over traveling. And you'll find me online at Jennifer Reynolds Travels, both as a URL on Facebook and on YouTube. But something that has struck me, and it was recently on my 4th trip to Antarctica when I contributed and decided that I wanted to take the leap and become an advocate of Antarctica, this place that I think is so extraordinary. And in requesting to become an Antarctic ambassador, what those who are allowed to do so talk about love and the education of the Antarctic. We advocate for the protection of it and the protection of the region itself, because after all, it is one of the largest ice sheets on Earth. But the thing that one has to know about the Antarctic is this. First of all, no ships larger than 500 are allowed to let anyone go ashore to make a landing. And when people and vessels are allowed to do landings, the maximum of 100 passengers are allowed to be ashore from the vessel at any one time. And that is generally a very large and guiding principle, meaning only 100 passengers can be off a vessel in a Zodiac walking over on land. Others can be off doing activities. But the point is, size matters when you get down into this part of the world. My oceanographer husband, I really have to thank for a deep love of both the history, the geography, the geology, and the animals of Antarctic. And it was in coming across a stash, if you will, of his materials that went back many years. And as I started going through the slides and articles, I was really humbled to realize what it took us to get to what we can do today to get down to the Antarctic and to explore it. Certainly explorers that have gone before us, like Shackleton, many are familiar with that name, and Scott. But there's other names, there's other explorers, Gerlache and Palmer, other smaller names that made significant impacts. And it was only in the early 19-something that the first polar exploration was begun. And these are all little bits of future stories that can be told, and wonderful books that can be read, and stories told in historical arenas, like books called Forgotten Footprints. But it is up to the International Association of Antarctic Tour Operators to look after this part of the world, and they do an amazing job of it. In early 1990s, only 6,500 visitors a year were coming in here. Now we're pushing up well over 55,000 a year, and it's hard to say what'll happen as many more vessels and permits are being given out. One thing I can assure you is IATO does an extremely good job of looking after our resources here. But is there a season in the Antarctic? There absolutely is. You can visit anytime from November through until the end of March into early April. Is there a bad time of year? No, only a different time of year for different reasons. And if you're free this week, next time, I'll be talking about November and December specifically in those departures. But what's important to remember in Antarctic is that many, many, many things are included, and that includes your charter flights that we're going to be looking at. It includes Zodiac landings, pre and post accommodations. There are logistics that happen here that you and I simply can't wrap our minds around. So be very grateful that you have a good operator looking after things on the ground for you. Coming in internationally, your two countries of play are going to be Chile and Argentina. The ports of Punta Arenas in Chile, or PUQ for an airport code, Ushuaia, USH in Argentina, and even sometimes Puerto Williams. You are looking at possibly coming into one country and going out of the other. None is better than the other, just completely different. In Chile, where charter flights are going to be operating from, is an absolutely delightful spot, as is Ushuaia in Argentina, where if you're sailing, odds are you'll be jumping on the ship from the pier here in Argentina. Pre and post opportunities are phenomenal, particularly with Torres del Paine Park. The world opening up now here in this part of the world is pretty extraordinary, and we have pre and post opportunities that are available here. But as you look at this part of the world between Argentina and Chile, or Fin del Mundo, the most southern place in the world you can go is the ever-present Drake Passage, that beautiful body of water that is and can be very challenging to cross. And how is that done? By that little arrow you see on King George Island. There's actually an airport here, and that is where our charter flights come into. So if you don't want to take your chances on the Drake Passage, you don't have to. You do have an option to fly over the Drake Passage. Sometimes it's the Drake Shake, sometimes it's the Drake Lake, and it does make a difference. You can take charter flights only late January and February. Mother Nature is really not very cooperative outside of those times. What I do assure you about is, as you look at these logistics, what we talk about in terms of Antarctica is anything that is ice and the ice shelves 60 degrees parallel and south. And that's an amazing, amazing experience. Whether you fly over it or sail over it, it is something that one can say that they have done. And here is an example of itineraries flying out or into Punta Arenas and then sailing into Ushuaia. To that airport on King George Island, maybe at a time of the year when the Antarctic Circle is available for visitation. Or another fly opportunity. Maybe you just want to go across the passage by flight and not take any chances at all. But if you choose to go across the Drake Passage, it can look like this. You do have times to go out on deck and look at the birds. You have a completely new appreciation for skuas and gulls and albatrosses and sheathbills. I highly encourage you to bring a pair of binoculars and keep them available at all times. When you have a little time at sea, whether it's rough or not, you do have time for lectures. You have time with your oceanographers and your geographers and your resident historians and oceanographers. And yes, we always do science when we are here in Antarctica. We are collecting samples, we are counting clouds, we may be even counting penguins, and that in itself is subject enough for another discussion. But it's here when you've got time to look at water samples through the microscopes. These are things that you're going to collect along the way. That feeling of seeing your first iceberg is something that you will never, ever forget. But neither is flying over the Drake Passage either direction and landing on King George Island on the gravel runway that's here. There is a luggage limitation in the amount of luggage you can bring with you. It's absolutely ample. And we work with you really closely to make sure that everybody understands exactly how everything operates. Hours can be early, things can change. Communication is done quite well. Luggage is generally small. People move and maneuver fairly quickly. We're not talking large groups of people. Even a quick little breakfast can be served on board that charter flight. Grab a few minutes of a nap, and then you are in the Antarctic. You are still on a base, not a military base. There is no military. Remember, nobody lives here, but it is still a scientific research base. So your gear will have gone ahead of you. You do have a little bit of a walk, and this is a recent photograph. That is right where the landing is, not far from the airport. And that's what you will be getting into when you disembark. You can see the ship at anchor out there, and a little further along, you'll be taken by Zodiacs out. Your luggage will be waiting for you. You'll get into your rubber boots right here on the beach. Your jackets will be waiting for you on board, but remember, you're never alone. We're always going to have someone with you. So you will have had briefings before you've gone ahead of time. We will have suggested what to pack and bring along with you, because no man is alone when it comes to any itinerary. But this is your boarding process. And when you see those two doors there, that's what you will be going to and from the ship, the Greg Mortimer or the Sylvia Earle. Regardless of what itinerary you choose, it's now begun. This is what day in and day out is going to look like. Your choice of expeditions in the morning with your Zodiacs, getting out and seeing the penguins, the Gentoos, the chin straps, the Adelie penguins. Possibly get involved in one of the kayaking or other opportunities for snorkeling or even diving. I'm a big fan of the activities that are available. This is what you're going to have day in and day out, and that includes the sea lions on the beaches. You're going to see seals and whales. It depends on what Mother Nature brings your direction. Your cameras need to be ready. You need to be able to move very quickly. If there's an opportunity to get out on deck to share the experiences, very, very quickly, a barbecue could be set up. If a pod of whales is seen, we're going to stop and go and take a look at them, because we're small, we're sharp, and we're lithe. And this is an amazing experience for families as well. And we'll talk about that in future opportunities. But Mother Nature isn't always kind down here in the Antarctic. Certainly you have opportunities to sail back to Ushuaia. You can then also take the charter flight back as well. It's really just a matter of logistics. The grandeur and the overall experience itself completely delivers in terms of the Zodiacs, the landings, the daily opportunities, the chance to stand on the Antarctic continent. But whether you choose to fly on the way back or you choose to cruise over the Drake Passage, that's what we've looked at today, is some fly sail options. You can leave the continent by your charter flight once again. That's going to take you back to Punta Arenas in Chile, or not. Maybe choose to do one of the options where you sail back. There's a great cause to be said for all of them. But what you can do now is take a look at resources that are available for you online at auroraexpeditions.com. The travel agent section is absolutely ripe. Our new e-brochure is available. I strongly suggest you download that and take a very good look at it. Make a social post or share one of my social posts, or even make a phone call to someone else. As an agent said to me earlier this week, I'd hate for one of my clients to miss out on having their dream experience to Antarctica simply because their dream experience isn't my dream experience, because Antarctica didn't appeal to her. So poke around the website, look at some of those online resources, talk to families who've been to Disney, shoot them an idea and say, how about going down and doing this Thanksgiving with the penguins? Get in touch with me directly. Bonus points for anybody that asks about the kayak in Bermuda. Great little story, which segues to our Penguin Parlor, same time next week. Live 3 p.m. Thursday, always saved and recorded, available for viewing on Jennifer Reynolds Travels. And soon we're going to be talking about travel in November and December of this year. I'm Jennifer Reynolds. Thank you for joining me in the Penguin Parlor, our 15 minutes together. If you would like to connect with me directly, please don't hesitate to do so.